I saw the children out front.
There comes the form for you. Welcome everybody to the Winslow Township Board of Education regular board meeting of Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Public notice of this meeting was given to all board members and associates in a notice dated 1/9/2025. Adequate and electronic notice of this public meeting has been provided specifying the time, place, and manner in which this meeting is being conducted. It was advertised in the Courier Post, posted in all schools, the administration office, the municipal building, the library, Bud Dubel Center, Edgewood Acres, Elmtown, and the Winslow Township post offices. Mission statement. The mission of the Winslow Township School District, a large, diverse, and growing community, is to educate all students to become independent, lifelong learners, critical thinkers, and caring and confident members of their community. The district, in partnership with the community and in a climate of cooperation and mutual respect, will provide an academic environment which values excellence and diversity, encourages students to strive for personal excellence, and assists them in acquiring the knowledge, skills, and attitudes necessary to contribute positively rapidly changing world. Roll call, please.
Mr. Clark,
Mr. Clark will be absent tonight.
thank you. Ms. Stratton,
Here.
Ms. Claude,
Here.
Ms. Martin, present. Mr. McManus,
Mr. McManus, I think he's going to be late.
okay. Ms. Peterson,
Present.
Ms. Pitts,
Ms. Pitts will be absent tonight.
thank you. Mr. Thomas,
Absolutely.
and Mr. Shaw.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The 24-25 district goals, please.
Mr. President, 24-25 district goals. Student achievement. Continue to implement best practices for delivering instruction to students. This shall include conduct weekly administrative walkthroughs to monitor teaching and learning, consistently review student assessment data to guide and redirect teaching, continue to provide supplemental activities, example tutoring, enrichment periods to address student deficiencies, benchmark assessment for ninth graders for math and language arts. 2, create a safe and positive learning environment for students and staff, strictly enforce the district's student code of conduct, focus on upper elementary school students to modify student behavior in the early grades, reinforce positive behavior in a specific and genuine way, approach discipline with care, respect, and the desire to see the good in all students. 3, increase parent, caregiver, and community engagement in education. Provide opportunities for two-way communication with district stakeholders. Continue with communications consortium. Focus on refining our communications methods and messages to better market our schools. Continue with our public relations with the community.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Moving on to our awards and presentations.
Yes, Mr. Shaw, members of the board and community, we have 2 presentations. The first will be in recognition. As we have done in the past, we would like to acknowledge our young people throughout the district for their achievements in school and outside of the school district. Tonight, we are going to acknowledge and recognize our band and color guard for their most recent accomplishment, and we are definitely proud of them. Is Mr. Jarvelli?
He's absent. I'm here in his place.
Oh, okay. Ms. Dixon?
She's also sick.
I only have 2 names.
I'm the assistant director of choreography.
Would you go to the podium, please? acknowledge the members of the Guard and any other students who are here representing your band front?
Sure.
And then just tell us a little bit about your successes throughout the course of this season.
I will actually read what the color guard instructor, Ms. Dixon, had written, because
Okay.
she's homesick right now, unfortunately. She starts, "Good evening, members of the board, faculty, families, and guests. It is my honor to stand before you today to recognize a group of students whose dedication, discipline, and talent have brought pride to our school community, the outstanding Winslow Township High School indoor color guard. This season was incredibly special. The color guard didn't just compete, they conquered. With their 2025 program, Crown and Glory, they brought home another regional championship in their class, received the highest score that a Winslow Township High School color guard has ever received at all chapters championships in Wildwood with a 96.31, and was promoted to A class, which is a stunning achievement. With long hours, practice, unwavering teamwork, and a commitment to excellence, they rose to the top and were crowned champions in their region. Their achievement isn't about medals. It reflects the values we strive to instill in our students: perseverance, unity, and pride in representing something greater than themselves. I would now like to acknowledge and recognize the 6 Region 1 champions of the Winslow Township High School indoor color guard. Captain Katarina Fountain. Congratulations to the color guard members on this remarkable accomplishment. Your hard work has made us all proud. And a special thank you to the school and school board for your support of this program. Winslow Township High School is only able to have an award-winning program because of that support. And lastly, thank you to all the parents whose time and commitment has made this accomplishment possible.
Now, I know there's a banner that you guys
There
want.
is a banner. It is in the office of Mr. Darwell right now. We were trying to bring it for you today, but some wires got crossed in communication. We
Okay, then that
apologize.
answers my next question.
Yes.
But on behalf of the administration and the school board, we would like to congratulate the color guard, the members of the band front, for an outstanding season. We're truly proud of everything you've been able to accomplish. You've been representing yourselves, your family, this community, and the high school in the best possible way, and we're proud of you. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have our technology audit presentation. We're going to ask our guests to please come forward to the mic, introduce yourselves, gentlemen. And at that point, I know you have a presentation. Would you like for us to take seats in the audience so that you can?
Sure, yeah, that might be better for you, don't
All right,
hurt your necks.
thank you.
Make no problem. You want to make sure it works? Yeah, there we go. Oh, there we go. Wrong signal.
For you, sir.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Ryan Kastner. I am an account manager with Aspire Technology Partners. And my job at Aspire is to bring the experts such as Keith Eckel and other engineers at our organization together and bring solutions for districts just like Winslow Township.
My name is Keith Eckel. I've been with Aspire Technology Partners for about 11 years. Solutions architect. I spent probably about 9-10 of those years actually in school districts, Fortune 500s, pretty much every business that you can think of I've been in, configuring these kind of networks. And we're looking forward to essentially engaging.
Great. So I wanted to tonight take some time to give an introduction to us.
Excuse me,
Go ahead, Dr.
Could
T.
you gentlemen use your
Sure.
mic as much
Sure.
as possible, so everybody, thank you.
Absolutely, no problem. Is that better?
Yes.
Oh, not a problem. So, as I mentioned before, I'm account manager, so I focus in what's called SLED, Aspire Technology Partners, state, local, education, and government, right? So, I work within South Jersey districts, just like Winslow Township, large and small districts, agnostic in that regard. And as Keith mentioned, the extensive background in helping organizations or districts like yourselves with audits and assessments like we're going to talk about tonight. So just a little overview about Aspire. We can talk more about that at the end. We are a local New Jersey-based and headquartered organization. About 50% of our organization focuses on the commercial side of the house. So as Keith mentioned, Fortune 500 down to local businesses. And the other 50% where I live is in the SLED, state, local education and government space. So we know this space well. We focus on a couple of different areas. Tonight, we're going to talk about consulting side of the house, which again, tonight we'll talk about an audit and assessment of the network infrastructure, security, and overall resilience of the network. We also handle things from design, procurement, installation, configuration, and also manage services for 24/7, 365 vision into the networks of districts like yourselves. So I mentioned all of that just to give you an idea of where Aspire spans the gamut in terms of what we can do and our expertise and our reach. Okay, so we were introduced to Winslow Township School District because we work through various state contracts and agencies to perform different consulting engagements, one of which pertains to audits and assessment. Mike Aponte, Director of Technology here for the district, reached out to me and asked myself, Keith, I pulled together a couple engineers to come in and also talk to Dr. Petit about some of the issues that they were seeing and they were hearing from folks district-wide about system connectivity, potential system security concerns, overall network just issues from time to time, and they felt that it was starting to potentially affect not only student performance, right, but of course performance from a teaching standpoint. As mentioned here earlier tonight, and the goals of the district want to make sure that the network is resilient, redundant, performing how it's supposed to, and is secure. So we had an extensive conversation, started to dig into some of the issues, and put together a proposal that from a high level tonight, myself and Keith are going to talk through to give you an idea of what we would be doing if you decided to engage with Aspire Technology partners on this. So I'll point you to the screen there. Try not to kill you with PowerPoint here. But again, when we came in and spoke with the technology team and Dr. Petit, and they gave us some of the background of what they were looking for, it really aligns to what we do at Aspire Technology Partners. So our job is to, from an audit standpoint, dig in down to the stakeholder level, right? So interviewing teachers, going into the schools, having boots on the ground to understand exactly what is going on. Keith will talk about some of this, but diving into the network and the infrastructure, understanding what you have here at the district. We have a relatively good overview of that from our initial discussions, but actually getting in there, Keith and myself did a walkthrough for the proposal, understand what you have. And then from there, digging in to ensure, again, everything we need to do to make sure that to perform the outcomes that are needed, right? So you'll see in the middle there the focus. I mentioned resiliency, obviously very important in today's day and age, that the network and the infrastructure and the systems are operational at all times, but especially during the school day, right? So resiliency is going to be a big focus. Security, you see on the news, you don't have to look too far. Cybersecurity is an ever-changing world. There's concerns around that in every district. Some of the things we talked about in our initial discussions were potential what they call DDoS attacks. You may have heard of ransomware, where your data is locked up, or malware. We're going to dig into security, and Keith's going to talk about some of the particulars there. Scalability, mentioned at the beginning of the board meeting that the district is a growing district, right? And when we talk about scalability, that means from a technology standpoint too. We're all hearing about AI, some of the tools. That's going to continue to grow. We need more computing power, more network power. Our goal with the audit and assessment is provide the team and the leadership here at the district the ability to scale efficiently and effectively going forward. So Keith's going to touch on not only when we talk about short-term solutions to close those gaps where there are issues, but also a long-term roadmap to make sure that the district can scale. And then last but not least, standardization, right? There's a host of different solutions, vendors, and infrastructure solutions that districts can put into place. If it's not standardized and there's not a roadmap to align the district to, it can be very hard, again, going back to scaling, to standardize on something. And that makes life a lot harder on the IT and technology team. So most importantly is going to be outcomes, right? So Keith's going to dive in again a little bit more into the particulars of actual audits and assessment, but our goal is to provide you within our outcomes short-term fixes, right? So immediate fixes to any of those system discrepancies or downtime that you're currently seeing. Midterm solutions to say, look, these are things that may not need to happen immediately, but we're going to recommend you do within maybe the next year or 2 years. And then again, a long-term roadmap solution. Keith, I'll give it to you for the framework of the engagement.
Thank you. So throughout the whole project with the actual engagement, we're obviously going to do project kickoff calls. So we kind of did our walkthroughs already to get a lay of the land as to more or less the network devices that you have, how many closets you have, where everything's sitting, what the actual infrastructure kind of looks like. So we have a good idea, but then we'll start diving a little bit more deeper into it. So we'll do an initial project kickoff. This whole engagement will mostly cover just the network infrastructure, your wireless infrastructure, your data center infrastructure, and obviously your security as well too. So we'll go through, we'll do some stakeholder interviews. So essentially, at each school, we'll kind of pick a handful of teachers and administrators, whatever, and we'll go through and we'll actually interview them and try to get their feel as to what's actually going on in the school. Because obviously every building is different, right? So we want to ensure that we're hitting every building's needs. We don't want to basically go to a building and understand that one thing is wrong and then we're kind of trying to fix something else, right? We want to understand what exactly is going on in that building and then come to a solution so that you guys can be more efficient. We do a lot of tool-based data collection. So we'll actually log in, we'll physically be in every single device. We'll look at the configurations. We'll look at how it's all working. We'll come up with best practice recommendations. And this goes back into Ryan's short, medium, and long-term kind of goals. We'll take a look at, obviously, the configuration assessment, and then we'll come up with a business process review. So what we want to hit in the short term, what we want to hit in the medium term, and obviously what we want to hit in the long term. As far as the analysis goes, we're going to go through like a security posture review. So we'll look at project governance. We're going to do basic penetration testing. So we're going to look at the network from the outside in. Obviously, you guys don't want to be in the news. No one really ever wants to be in the news for bad things like ransomware. So we're going to take a look at all that and see how that would affect the district and how we can prevent that from happening in the first place. That also covers NIST compliance. So that's what most Fortune 500 and school districts use as their security backbone. So it's basically a framework for the actual district itself. We'll go through some risk prioritization. So we'll give you red, yellow, green. So what is the most priority as far as the security assessment goes? Same thing with the network. Like what you need to fix now, what could wait a little bit, and what could be pushed down a little bit down the road. And then obviously we'll come up with different insights. So we'll give you different. We're not sold on one vendor. Obviously, what you guys have, we'll try to make work with what you have. So you're not going out and just buying new stuff or having to buy new stuff. We can present basically what we would recommend and more of a consultative approach. We want to be a partner. We're here to work with you, not just try to sell you something. And then obviously roadmap development. So again, I keep saying short-term, medium-term, long-term goals, but that's really the goal of the whole project. We'll also come up with standardized high-level and low-level designs. So at a high level, what the whole district would look like as far as the network, and then we'll go pretty deep into as far as configurations, IP addressing, VLANs, all those other terms. We'll get into as far as like the actual designs go, and then policy guidance. So again, once everything is done and over with, we don't want to go away. We want to partner with you. We can come up with those policies. We can help you manage them. Because obviously, once we're done with the engagement, we want to make sure that those policies are actually staying in place and they're not just kind of going away. Everyone knows, you can kind of see you have a nice shiny toy for a little bit, and then eventually it stops becoming so shiny, and it just kind of goes to the wayside. But that's what we're here for. We can help you out with that.
Sure. So in terms of alignment, one of the other things here, there's a couple of things that are reiterated here, right? But ultimately our goal here, along with the district, is to stabilize the network, right? So that was the initial reason that we were brought in, the conversation was had in the first place, is there's some instability that we'd like to make sure that we remedy for you, and then strengthen it to ensure going forward that your network is redundant and resilient. We also want to make sure that we assess the infrastructure from the base level on up, right? So we mentioned before, we've done a walkthrough. We're going to be digging into the network. We're putting tools and devices into the network to understand exactly where things stand now and make sure we give recommendations to strengthen it going forward. And then security is a big piece, right? Another piece to the security, a part of it is what's called a vulnerability assessment. So we'll actually put a tool within the network that will understand where vulnerabilities lie. And then also, again, recommendations. So the last piece that I'll touch on here, and we're certainly happy to take any questions thereafter, this will be a collaborative engagement should the district decide to move forward. So in our initial meetings, we've met with the IT and technology team here at the district. You've got a lot of great leaders on that team, and they do a great job for you. It's kind of similar to like any organization or business when they have financial audit, right? So they have an accounting and finance team on staff, and then they have an audit maybe annually or biannually where somebody from the outside comes in, takes a look at things, points out areas maybe where there can be recommended opportunities for stabilization or strengthening, as I mentioned, and then we work hand in hand with the team on staff. So Keith mentioned we can certainly, after the engagement, help you further, but the IT team, our goal is really so the IT team is armed, and the technology team, I should say, is armed with the information and the roadmap to be able to not only get you to where you'd like to be as a district, but know what needs to be done going forward. And really, you could do that in whichever manner that you need to, and whatever vendor that you decide to use as well. So we've said a lot. If anybody would like to get more of a technical deep dive, we can of course do that as well. Our goal tonight is try to hit you on a high level, knowing not everybody may be as familiar with networking and infrastructure and data center and security. We're open to any questions if anybody would like to ask me. Sure.
Generally, how long does it take from start to finish for you to come back and give us an analysis?
Question on that? Yeah, sure. Yeah. So obviously, with the district of your size, we start from project kickoff. That probably takes about a couple of days. We do an internal project kickoff, which would be a meeting between myself, Ryan, our project management team, and the actual engineers who would be assigned to do the actual assessment. This way, we know that from the initial engagement, that the information is getting relayed properly to them, and they fully understand what is actually going on. Ryan and I don't go away by any means. We're still fully involved with the project, so we make sure that everything is going as it was sold and is expected to go. From there, we then do a external kickoff. So that would be a kickoff with the district itself. So that's ourselves and you guys meeting, and we're going through basically the statement of work that would be agreed upon, what you guys would expect, and from there, then we just start scheduling dates. You know, I mean, we can do this pretty quickly. We can take as long as you want, really, too. But I would say probably within a couple of weeks, we can have some answers. I can speak from like a wireless standpoint side. This also includes wireless heat maps. And what that entails is us actually walking around the buildings with a site survey tool to understand coverage gaps. So that'll give us nice, pretty colors on a software that'll tell us, hey, you're missing some wireless coverage in this room. You might need to add a couple of access points here, move an AP there, whatever. That takes time, just because obviously we want to make sure we're not interfering with the business itself or the district itself. So we have to physically get into as many rooms as possible. So I would say that would probably take about a week or so. If I had to estimate, I would say about 1 to 2 months, probably throughout the summer. We can probably get this done for you. I hope that answers your question. Yes.
When you're doing your assessment, is it best that the students are here? Because I'm assuming when they're here, they're using more, whatever, bandwidth, whatever, as opposed to when they're not. If you came in and did this during the summer, you just have the 12-month staff, might not be, a great picture or snapshot, but I'm assuming you'll be doing some assessment while the students are in here working and, drawing from whatever resources.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and that's actually our goal too as well. So hopefully, as soon as we can get sign off and as soon as we get the project rolling, we could absolutely start doing our assessment, especially from the networking side, and same thing with the wireless side too. We can come in, we can do the key pass with students are here as well. It is kind of intrusive, obviously, because we have to walk in and out of the classroom. We're in the classroom momentarily. It'd probably be about a minute or so, and then we kind of move on to the next classroom, the next room. But the networking side, we're pretty stealthy. You wouldn't even know that we're actually going to be on the network itself. So we'll be remotely doing those, but we can do those with everybody in the district. So this way we can see the bandwidth coming out of one school versus the bandwidth coming out of another school. We can see, hey, is this internet pipe getting overloaded versus the other internet pipe isn't being utilized at all? So we can give you kind of like a cost analysis too, like maybe this school is using less than what they think that they're paying for, or vice versa. But yes, that's a great question.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, you mentioned it before too, but also interviewing folks in the schools is an important component to it as well, right? And the teachers, potentially students are the ones that are actually experiencing some of the issues. And look, we can put in place tools and we can monitor things, but a lot of the times the conversations that really tell us a lot of the story, right? Important as well.
I think one important fact that you mentioned was that you would provide us with a red, yellow, green. I think I got the colors right.
You got it.
Red, of course, being most important, which means that the school district may have to repair or replace something in that area in order for us to move forward. There's a cost attached to that replacement or repair. So we need, as a board and administration, know that as you move forward and provide us with this red, yellow, and green, that in order for us to move quickly and efficiently, we're going to have to start replacing some things, buying new, whatever it may be, to upgrade, some things of that sort. So I know there's a cost attached to that. Will you be recommending to us, for example, how much you think it would cost, estimate wise, so we have an idea of what we're talking about in terms of costs?
Sure. Yeah, great question, and absolutely. So what we'll do is, based on our findings, we'll recommend a solution or multiple solutions. And most of the time, it's going to be multiple solutions, right? So depending what the issues are, we typically will give kind of a high, low, and then a medium option as well, right? We know this is a school district, there's budgets involved, right? So typically when we work with our customers, we'll say, listen, our 100% recommendation, if the budget fits, would be X. We understand that you may not have the budget for that, so maybe you go Y or maybe you go Z. At the output of the actual audit itself, we can give budgetary figures, or we can give you actual quotes, and you can move forward on it. Jerry. Sure.
So you said you've done this with other school districts. What were some of those findings that you had that were like the most common or most expensive, or stuff that we could turn on right away?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of that comes from, at least in my experience, it comes from security. It'll also come from wireless. So most of the times, schools may have too many access points, or they may not have enough wireless access points. That's basically the vehicle that gets you from your laptop wirelessly out to the internet. So through the wireless heat map, that'll tell us right away whether you have too many, whether you don't have enough, whether we need to move some, maybe they're not in the right spots. Same thing from the security vulnerability assessment. That would come into play as far as, what kind of devices you have. Maybe it's you're missing a certain license to stop DDoS attacks, to stop malware, to stop maybe you do URL or content filtering a little bit more efficiently. So we'll dive into all those different rule sets within the firewalls, within the appliances, and then we can give you the cost based on that. But to answer your question, it kind of varied from school district to school district. Some schools, they have staff that are completely dedicated to just managing a firewall or just managing the wireless, right? Versus having staff that is pretty much doing everything and sweeping floors and stuff too. So it can vary, but it all depends on what we really find. So I wish I could give you like a number. But.
And then when you said you're going to give us recommendations, this doesn't cover you coming back out and looking at the recommendations that we did do to see if those recommendations are actually in place the way that you recommended, or is that something else that we have to have you come back out on a different award or contract to say, okay, all of the things that here's all the lists, and then we tell you which ones we have implemented, and then you come back out and say, okay, yes, these are what we asked you to do, and they're implemented based on what you recommended and are good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that would be part of another engagement. So this engagement itself is for the audit. So we're going to go through pretty much everything, list out what would need to be basically tactical recommendations, what I would call it. And then from there, we can either work with you to accomplish those, or you guys can go ahead and go through them yourselves. We'll kind of give you guidelines on how to do some of the stuff. And then obviously, I mean, we're always a phone call away. You can utilize this as little as you want or as much as you want. So,
In terms of districts that you have worked with similar buildings with age on them, has there been any unique concern?
So a lot of that comes with like cabling. I know we run into a lot of issues, especially with trying to, if we have to add devices in certain areas. Maybe you can't drill through a wall because there's asbestos, or maybe you can't do certain things because it's solid concrete, maybe it's a fallout shelter at some point. So yeah, we've been through some tough environments. We have people who are dedicated to actually run cabling for us. And we can pretty much get it wherever you need to as far as that goes. I would say as far as like the age with wireless, that always becomes a big issue, right? Because buildings were made differently, especially back in the day. They put a ton of metal into concrete walls, and it's basically every room is a Faraday cage. We've come up with good solutions when it comes to that. And again, the wireless survey will actually tell us whether or not maybe you do need to do an AP in every room in order to house the amount of students that might be connected on Chromebooks or laptops to an access point to give them better service. That survey will absolutely tell us that. Same thing, maybe it's drywall in between every single wall. Maybe you don't need an AP in every single room. We can maybe take that access point and repurpose it somewhere else in the district. The survey will tell us that as well too.
That's part of your assessment.
Yes, right. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and the other piece I'll add there too is, right, it's obviously gonna be different urban schools versus rural schools, right? So we're in New York City or Philadelphia, when I talk about redundancy and internet service providers, there's gonna be more options, right, in a city, whereas in a more rural environment like this here at Winslow, there might not be as many options in terms of that redundant second connection or resiliency. So some of the things that I've also seen, and I'm not an engineer, but it's just in my customers, is understanding where there may be issues on the provider side as well. So sometimes we do these audits thinking, okay, there's probably an issue within the district, and a lot of times it may point back to a provider, right? So we help you hold them accountable and give you that ammo. We talked about something, Thousand Eyes, just as a small example, something that we put in place in other districts that actually shows what we call hop to hop, right? From going from the service provider all the way to the school, and we can show, okay, it's actually a Comcast issue, right? Just for example, or a Zoom, right? Something to that effect. So depending on the location geography, it can be different amongst different school districts.
Yeah, we can take that as far as the application goes. So like Ryan said, Zoom, WebEx, it could be Blackboard or whatever other applications you might be hosting. So we can then give you ammo to go to a Comcast or Verizon and say, hey, this isn't our network. We see packet loss on your side. You need to fix your stuff. And, question back there?
Yes, you mentioned audit, that's where I was going.
Sure.
Fully understanding your analysis and everything, can you speak more to your audit? Is it an actual audit, or what does that entail?
Yeah, so basically that would entail us going from closet to closet, network device to network to device, taking a look at the configurations, deep diving into those. Is there anything wrong with the config? Like, are we missing something somewhere? Could it be done differently? Could it be done more efficiently? And then making those recommendations based off of that. Same thing with, so that could also go to the security side too. So pen testing, DDoS testing, basically taking a look from the outside in. What ports are open? So if you have ports that are open to potential hackers, right? How can we stop that from happening? Can we recommend closing certain ports and maybe only allowing certain firewall rules? Basically taking a deep dive in the configuration of every single network device that we have on within districts, and then giving you a report based off of that, along with recommendations and how we would do it as far as like a high and low level design.
Yeah, and the other piece there, and from a governance perspective, right, I mentioned this before, but one of the things we talked about in our initial meeting and we do within the audit is actually looking at the policies you have in place, right? Often, and this is the case for a lot of districts, a lot of businesses, you name it, where they have policies in place that they're not actually following, right? So when it comes to cybersecurity, that can go as far as training for your staff and your teachers, right? I mean, just fish testing and spam testing for your employees. Whatever it may be, if your policies are not being enforced or your actual actions aren't aligned with your policies, that's something that we're gonna wanna call out and make sure it's fixed going forward. And we align all of that to, Keith mentioned it before, but the NIST standard, which is the highest standard in terms of cybersecurity. So the audit and the results will actually show you, okay, here's where you're essentially doing what you should be doing and you're following your policies. And here's where we recommend you either make a change or align your policies to the recommended actions.
Sure, so a couple questions, so, and I just heard you talk about the NIST standards, so you're talking about the NIST standards, which is 800-43, and your FISMA standards? My background is IT, I'm a former CIO.
There you go.
Yeah, so I'm looking to see what you're doing, so you're looking at the FISMA standards, you're looking at framework, you're looking at, the network, like you said, ports, vulnerabilities, making sure that if your printers and nothing else is engaged, making sure certain ports are shut down. The other thing is your recommendations. Do you do POAMs? And for POAMs, that is plans of action and milestones. So your recommendations, is that in the form of a POAM and you're going to send it back to the school and they can look at it for remediation, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, exactly. So that goes back to, I mean, I used the color reference before. So basically we'll give you all the recommendations. Here's what we would tackle first, or here's what we would recommend you tackle first, and then kind of go from there. And then the district can make the decision. We'll give you costs aligned with that. And the district can then go ahead and make the decision. What do we want to do? When do we want to do it? And do we want to engage Aspire or a different vendor to actually help us out with that?
So, but the issues that you find, say you go into the server room and you look and you see that they don't have the right redundancy, the right backup, or the cabling is all just non-compliance or what have you. So you will write that in the form of a recommendation, said, okay, this is what you need to remediate. Is that how you guys?
That would be a part of it, yes.
Yeah. So the risk management, okay, so that's good. You answered that. The rest of that sounds pretty good. Yeah, and your standardization, so you're talking about standardization as far as the NIST standards and standardizations for every school, like schools 1 through 5 to the high school, as they're all standardized, doing things the same way.
Right.
Same naming conventions of devices, you learn your PC, same naming conventions, same printer name, so anybody can follow it.
Yeah,
Is that what we're
exactly.
talking about?
That's part of it. And the other part of that too, that's a great question or a great point. So basically standardization would be device types, model types. So part of this would also us be going through and picking out end of life or potential end of sale or end of support devices. So if there's any of those devices that are actually within the network, we're going to recommend obviously you take those out and you replace them with newer devices, especially the end of support ones. We want those to be under support, so if something were to happen, we can then fix it or help you fix it. The other part would be trying to get the schools almost, I'll call it cookie cutter. So this way, when you go to troubleshoot, you're not troubleshooting different things throughout the whole district. If there's an issue in one building, you might have the same issue in another building, and you can come to a faster means of resolution from a troubleshooting standpoint, should you have to. So the idea would be basically the same model, number of devices at each building. Obviously, there's going to be a different number just because of the size of buildings, but at least the same models. So this way, if there's a bug, you can then go ahead and remedy it with a version upgrade. Same thing with the wireless. My understanding is that there's a couple different versions of wireless access points. So obviously, you want to kind of standardize on one wireless solution. That would help out. Same thing with firewalls.
So, and you're also going into the closet, looking at the cable management, just basic small things, seeing to make sure that they're doing it. And your the wireless assessment, so you're maybe doing like enhanced triangulation as you're going in there, making sure that you're getting the right angles. And then you mentioned about a team you have to, like I said, when you're drilling, and I used to work in a hospital, so you had to have containment issues, stuff like that. But when you're drilling and you're fire stopping, so you're doing all the recommendations, or you have another division of your department or another division that does that type of cable management, running the cables and stuff like that.
Yeah, we use fully licensed and insured cable vendors that we've used for many, many years. Star's been around for over 20 years now. We've had probably the same cable vendors for about those 20 years. They are going through, they're making sure that, I mean, we wouldn't use it if they weren't doing it, but full, like you said, full fire stop, red cable up in the ceiling, making sure, I mean, obviously, if you're drilling a hole through the wall, we're not leaving a hole in the wall, you know? I would like it to look like my house, right? I don't want to leave you with a hole in the wall, there's nothing there. So, yeah, they're doing the right thing when they're going through.
And they're also providing with testing results once they run the cabling.
Yep, full testing,
Test
you'll
full
get,
testing to make
Yeah.
sure that is working.
yep, they'll give you the results too, basically to make sure that, hey, yeah, the cable does work. And then also that, I mean, that comes out right when we start deploying stuff too. You know, we'll find out right away if the cable needs to be retipped or something like that. They don't charge to come back out to retip the cable, they'll just come back out and redo it for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a review question. To do this properly, you would recommend that this would be done during school session, when school's around.
At least parts of it.
Yeah.
Right, Keith? Yeah.
Parts of it, obviously, some of it, because it is intrusive, as
Yeah.
far as like us walking in and out of rooms.
Right.
That can be done after hours or during holiday week breaks or school or summer. But most of it, especially from the networking side, we can do during school while people are actually utilizing.
But that's, if you had to pick a time, that would be the ideal time to do it, when it's
Yeah,
at maximum usage, I guess.
Yep. because if there was an issue and it started poking its or flaring its head, you know, we'll be able to see logs.
Sure.
We're able to take a look and actually see what's going on. And make note of that.
If no one else has a question. Okay, then I'll ask mine anyway. The recommendations that you made to us, because have to be budget conscious and cost efficient. But let's say, for example, we do all the things that you're recommending, at least at the highest level. How many years out can we be guaranteed that we don't have to go back through this again? You know, like, we good for 5 years after all this, or we good for 10 years? You know, I'm just having an idea, because I like to do it right the first time.
Sure.
So in 2 years, we're not back here again. So with those repairs, upgrades, whatever it may be, how many years out will we be in reference to this type of?
Yeah, I would say, you know, this is not a good start, but it depends, right? So in terms of hardware, there's a life cycle to everything in IT, right? And most things in this day and age. So we can give very clear and concise guidance based on, Keith mentioned, end of life, end of support, right? So we certainly want to make sure if something's end of support, we get that replaced. It's no longer supported, right? There's vulnerabilities. So typically life cycle, you're looking at 5, 7,
10 years. Same thing with software too. So obviously software, I mean, that'll come and go. That could be weekly. There might be new software that comes out. So we can't guarantee software, but we can at least make recommendations to like the best recommended version of code from the vendor at that point in time. Once we get you there, you know, it can either be on the district to maintain, to be on the recommended version of code, or you can work alongside us and we can do that for you or help you out and guide you.
And we know from our initial discussions as well that, for example, the switching environment was replaced within, I believe, the last year and a half through the E-rate program. Same thing with wireless. I believe half of it was done also through E-rate, and another half is being done as well. So from a hardware standpoint on the switching environment, wireless, just an example, we know you probably have a long life cycle there. Again, we're going to dive into the configurations and some of the nitty gritty there where there may be some issues. And then once we get that firmed up, you should be in a good place there. But to Keith's point, when it comes to software, things do change continually. We'll make the recommendation of the best versions to be on. And then at that point, you know, with a roadmap of how often really you're going to want someone watching that for you, right? Or the IT team.
Yeah, so just to add to what Dr. Hanson
Sure.
said, that's right. But the main thing is, well, not the main thing, but your life cycle refresh. So you're going to recommend, okay, the server that you have will probably last 15 years. Your PCs probably last 5-6 years. I'm not sure about the technology team that works for you, but they should be looking at your compliance. They should be looking at they should be able to, whatever management tools they're using, to look at your software and see what like, let's say Microsoft Word, the whole Microsoft Office suite. Okay, if it's good for, 5 years, if it's good 2 years, certain softwares that you use every day, you're looking to see that, how long the software is used, you know, so your IT manager should be looking and running reports about the different softwares. You should have a whole listing of all your softwares that you use, it should be cataloged, and when the life expectancy are. So that would work hand in hand.
Correct, yeah, and the solution we provide, just as an example, that outside of this engagement, but patching, you're familiar with,
Yeah.
release management, right? So, exactly, so I mentioned at the beginning, we do also manage services, so there's a lot of districts throughout the state where it's called a NOC, Network Operations Center, actually monitors and ingests all the data from the infrastructure. We'll also go in and do patching and release management for them as well. So there are ongoing things you can do, and you can take off the IT and technology team if you wanted to, or to your gentleman's point, you can have them look at that as well.
Right, so last question.
Sure, go ahead.
Take up the
Yeah,
time.
it's okay.
If someone called you and said, I had a virus, so I don't know how it works here. Normally, like you said, you got a NOC team. First thing we do, we shut down the port so nothing happens, and then you go remediate it. I don't know how that works here. So like you said, you can provide that service, but I'm thinking that our local team should be able to do that now. They're managing the network administrators that are managing the switches.
And that's one of the things we'll look at, right, is what is the guidelines currently, right? So how does the team respond, and what are the guidelines for what they do from that point?
Yeah, basically, we would love to get it to a point where, you know, it's automatically doing that for you. So as soon as malware or a virus is detected on a machine, the port would automatically turn off. That device is automatically quarantined into a VLAN that does not have access to anything internal. Maybe they have internet only, just so that they can do whatever they need to do externally, or we can even just shut them down completely, right? So we eliminate the IT team having to actually like physically remove the device from the network. If you just automatically do it, and then the IT team can come and then wipe the device, get all the important stuff off of it that they need, and then kind of go from there. But that would be some of the stuff that we would be recommending, and at least trying to get the district to go towards.
So you'll look at the VLANs. The VLANs are in networking. Let's just say VLANs 1 through 100. VLAN 100 are your printers. VLAN 250 is something else. So you're going to look at the different VLANs and for standardization as everything will be.
Yeah. So ideally, you know, every school probably have the same VLAN if we
Should be.
it's not on the same domain.
Yeah.
This way, you know, users are on VLAN 2, printers VLAN 100,
Yeah.
whatever. So this way, we're troubleshooting.
Makes
Again,
sense.
going back to the standardization. Same thing with like quarantine VLANs, where you know if the device gets infected with malware, it just automatically goes to a quarantine VLAN where it's sandboxed. They can't touch anything internally. So to alleviate any like malware or ransomware attacks or anything like that.
Budget person again. So when you're doing your assessment, and I'm not tech savvy. I know enough if I don't recognize the email that comes in and I'm getting a fax. I don't get fax on I just ship them over to IT and I go spam, and they'll go, yeah, spam, and then I delete it. But I'm hearing you, what are you saying, where you're making everything unified, or the coding is the same, like you're saying such and such is 100 over. If you find that we're not set up like that, that would be a recommendation, or do you come in and we would have to then go back out to you or source some service to get us standardized?
Yeah, as part of this engagement, that would be a recommendation. So that would come out in our report at the end. So that would be part of like a tactical recommendation to say, okay, well, you know, school 4 was on this VLAN versus school 2 was on this VLAN, or you know,
Right.
these configurations didn't match up to how we would do it. That would also be part of our high and low level design as to how we would do the network if we were configuring.
Is that a red, yellow, or green situation?
That's a good question. It can vary, right? So if every school is completely different, I would say that would be red. If there was one school, you know, that the VLAN was separate, I would say that would probably be more of a yellow. You know, you don't have to get to that one right away, but eventually I would say, yes, you do need to get to that. If all schools are good, you know, that's green. We don't need to touch it. But I would say it would vary. Did you have a question?
I did.
Sure.
Just because I'm trying to framework this. It's May 14th. We still have to approve, right? We have to approve the likelihood, last day of school is June 17th. Would you be able to get in and do your in-student practice, like assessments before summer break? Or are we looking at September kind of coming back with your recommendations?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we would have to move pretty quick, right? Yeah, so, great question. We can definitely still do all the assessments without people in the building. It'll still give us pretty much the same results. As far as all that goes, we'll be able to see past use cases. Ideally, we do have students in the building. So getting back to your point, that would be the most ideal scenario. If not, it's not the end of the world. We can still do the assessment. We can still give you our best practice recommendations because configuration changes probably aren't going to change, especially if VLANs aren't matching up in certain spots. If spanning tree isn't configured properly in certain areas, things like that. What really would matter with students in the building would be, like bandwidth, internet pipe configurations, things like that. That's where that would really kind of hold us up.
I think at those pieces, we can move quicker, though, make them the first part of the.
Right, that would be the first thing that we tackle. I mean, we could also look at previous logs too, so whatever the district has, if they have a management platform, we can go through and we can kind of see what the prior use cases were, if there were any logs that were showing up that the internet pipe was getting pegged for some reason, we can go back and kind of check that.
I think part of the thought behind getting the audit was to prepare for, looking at providing more technology as our students need. In general, schools are becoming more tech heavy. There's much more need for Chromebooks being used in a higher capacity. So I just was trying to feel like in my mind frame out like what that would look like given the time constraints for the end of the school year and preparing for a new school year to be budget conscious. Because I would then, we're budget conscious.
If you take a look at the addendum, they're heading it up, so, it's possible that if the board likes what they're hearing,
Right.
quickly, yeah.
That was kind of how quickly, if we said yesterday, we could be there like next week. After, just like since it's state testing, this window of time frame. So there's a lot of usage across multiple schools, multiple grade levels.
But you can't, whatever you do, don't mess with testing.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is that's the last thing.
Don't even open the door.
we did that last year, not great.
But with the students, it's really not a big deal. It's a deal, but like you said, you can look at the reporting and stuff. But a lot of things that you have to do as far as the wireless and mapping and looking at the network, you can do that from behind the scenes and you won't even know they're there, as far as that. So just to let people know, it's good to have the students there sometimes, but that's not a showstopper to where, you can't do it without having students there.
Right, exactly.
Two questions. So just so that I understand this correctly, this current engagement that's up for bid now, this would just be you coming in, auditing, saying, okay, this is what we need to implement, but it wouldn't be you guys coming back to check on the implementation at a later date.
Correct, right, because then it doesn't include, for example, remediation.
Okay. And then my second question is, I know you said you would talk to students, teachers, staff. Would that also include an audit of our current technology team? Any recommendations for training or recertifications they might need in order to maintain the systems?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly work along with them. I mean, obviously, I spent a great deal of time doing consulting in districts, basically shoulder to shoulder with most of these people. So I do a lot of talking while I'm there, and I'm like they're more than welcome to stand over our shoulder as we're doing most of this. But yeah, as we go through, we can ask them what certifications they have for sure, and say, hey, maybe you want to look at going for this certification, or maybe you want to take a look at this new one that's out that might help you out down the road, right? So yeah, we can absolutely go through that.
And then my next two questions are actually for the administration, particularly Dr. Cookson. So once this audit is complete, would these results be made aware of the public? We know what the results of the audit would be.
We can follow the same process we're following now, in terms of what is being recommended, because in order for us to move forward with purchasing for repairs, it has to have board approval. So everything that we are giving, you have to bring back to board approval.
But would we know, like specifically, let's say we knew that school 5 had a particularly poor experience as opposed to maybe school 1, that might explain.
Security issues associated
Well,
with that.
besides,
Could not be
apart from
released.
security, obviously.
Right, because of course, you being a former board member, you know that there's certain things we can't share. But I think, as far as, maintenance, upgrades and things like that, sure, we can have that. That's pretty part of the public meeting, yes. Information you need to be.
And my other question, probably for Ms. Boyle, was Aspire the only bid that came in for this audit?
We actually reached out to Carasoft, who is the New Jersey School Board Association vendor, I think for another project. And we saw that they had, that they performed these audits for technology, which was great. I believe Mike Aponte reached out to Aspire. So Aspire is under the Carasoft umbrella. They were brought in, they had a meeting with Dr. Poti 15, Mike Aponte, who is the tech. And basically, I'm assuming they liked what they heard, and we started moving forward. I would not have to go out and redo a bid process because they've already been vetted. So, you know, it was like expedited.
And we wouldn't consider that a conflict of interest because we brought in one of our current people?
No, because actually, I think Mike had brought up Aspire. Ms. Chico had known that Carasoft had been awarded other work, and on their site, he said, let's go to Carasoft because they also do this. Carasoft then farms it out, or piggybacks with other companies. I don't want to call it farming now. Aspire was on their list. It was great. You know, Aspire, let's take a look at it. I don't know if Mike has had any other previous experience with them. Have you done anything else with Mr. Aponte?
Yeah, this would be our first engagement with, Mr. Fonte or, Winslow School District.
So you won't take it easy on them or anything like that?
Oh, no, we're gonna whip them in.
All I want to hear.
So we're here to make sure that the district is going in the direction.
So that brings me to a question that she said. So this is my last question. So you're looking at the local IT team here, how they do their business, as far as are they doing the right thing for when a new student comes in, a new teacher comes in, giving them access? Are they giving rules of behavior? Are there the different mechanisms? How they do their standard business? Are you looking at the current IT team that's here, how they're working on PCs, how they're deploying, you know, if they're doing things smartly? Or are they using the network, the management teams to, like I said, push out patches versus going to the machine themselves and stuff? Or so are you looking at the standard daily practices of the IT team that's currently here?
Yeah, sure. So ultimately, yes, as part of the audit, right? So we're gonna look at the daily practices and the standard operating procedures, right? And also, when things are found, we'll start to dig deeper. That'll say, okay, you know, let's say something within the configuration. We can then work backwards to say, how did this occur, right? So, you know, look, we're certainly not gonna necessarily point fingers or things of that sort, but the nature of audit results are gonna point to, hey, maybe there was a policy that was misaligned, maybe there was a procedure that missed, and this is an area that can be fixed, and that'll be part of the recommendation, right? So kind of inherently as part of the recommendations, you'll be able to see some areas where there can be some improvements that must be made.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out.
Thank you for your time.
I do want you to know we had a couple plants in the audience. Just to make sure.
That's great.
Just to make sure you're talking the same language.
What time is dinner with Mr. Aponte?
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. What's that? I think it was 5 or 6. Tried to keep it at a high level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you cut that out?
Can I? Did you hear me not say I'm not tech savvy? We'll be replacing you.
don't think that's enough.
You're right.
I was just testing you.
No. I know my skill set.
Before we get started back again, I'd like to thank, Committee Woman from Ward 3, Miss Lee for being with us tonight.
That's Deputy Mayor, sir.
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry. I just didn't want,
We also got veteran VDF George Bethel here with us tonight. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for your service.
Thank everyone for coming out because those who are technologically savvy, for asking those questions that you felt were pertinent, that some of us would not have normally asked. And hopefully you are satisfied with the presentation and that the board will feel comfortable in moving forward with this team that we presented tonight. So thank you for coming out. We appreciate it.
Moving on to correspondence. Is there any correspondence tonight?
I know, Mr. President, none tonight.
Moving on to minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the following meeting minutes for regular meeting, open and closed session for April 30th, 2025?
Peterson moved for approval of the regular open and closed minutes from April the 30th, 2025. Dredden second.
Any questions? All right, no questions. Roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Yes. Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
And Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our special meeting for the budget hearing on May 7th, 2025, open session?
Peterson moved for approval of the special meeting held on May 7th, 2025, open session. Dredden second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Yes. Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
And Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Moving on to our board committee reports. Mr. Thomas, is there a committee report from the athletic committee?
Absolutely. Winslow Township High School celebrating excellence in athletics and the arts. The Winslow girls track team makes history at the Camden County Championship. The Winslow girls track and field team has once again raised the bar for excellence, setting a new Camden County record for the most points ever scored at the county championships, with dominating performances across sprint, distance, and field events. The team captured multiple titles and solidified its reputation on one of the New Jersey's premier athletic programs. Standout victories included first place finishes in the 4x100 relay, 100-meter hurdles, and the long jump. The team's depth, work ethic, and drive were evident throughout the competition, with several athletes achieving personal bests and qualifying for the state level events. I'd just like to commend them and also our drama club. The Winslow Drama Club continues to make waves across the region, earning multiple Cappy nominations for the outstanding spring production, recognized in major categories, including best play, lead actor, actress, and stage management. The production was praised for its emotional depth, technical quality, and strong ensemble of work. In conclusion, Winslow Township High School remains a shining example of how dedication, talent, teamwork can create a culture of excellence. Whether on the track, the stage, or on the performance floor, our students continue to exceed expectations and inspire our entire community. And that's the report from the athletic.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And to piggyback on your mention of the Cappies, we happen to win the two best major Cappies awards. What was it? Best musical for Mamma Mia, and what was it? The female
Female vocalist.
female vocalist, right?
It's in her report.
Oh, I know it was, but I'm sorry, Miss Murphy, but as soon as he mentioned it, I wanted to make sure that was loud and proud. So, can't help but, be very proud of our drama club and our stage crew. So, Ms. Martin, anything from the Citizens Advisory Committee with you and Ms. Nieves?
Yes. Ms. Nueve.
So I'm not as tall as that gentleman. Thank you, members of the board. The CAC met last Thursday, May 8th at 6:30 via Zoom. Some of the key takeaways, we discussed the tech audit being approved and the price in that regard. The input meeting being tonight, May 14th. Community engagement remains a significant challenge, need for innovative solution-focused approaches. There's a potential Rowan University PR collaboration for positive district exposure that Ms. Renzulli shared with us. And a need to review and follow up on previous CAC recommendations to the board. So again, we talked about the technology audit update, community engagement challenges, low attendance at budget hearings, and superintendent real talks have kind of prevented more open dialogue. Success with events featuring student performances or specific parent events, like the past events that do very well. The suggestion to flip-flop from discussing issues to solution-based approaches, and the idea to organize small group discussions in person or via Zoom breakout rooms on specific topics that's within the CAC. The HSA continues to be kind of a worry that we have in the dipping numbers there. There is declining parent participation. Discussion was had around the fact that it is due to reduced school access and incentives for parents to be a part of the HSA. There was a suggestion to reinstate parent volunteers with background checks as we used to do way back when. I'm not going to date myself though. And explore policies to incentivize HSA participation and leadership. I know the CAC had talked about creating an SOP for all HSAs to kind of have to make it a little bit easier for those to take on those leadership roles. The CAC has yet to actually hear from any current or former HSA members. So this is my public plea to anybody who's currently on an HSA that wants to help us get a standard operating procedure for the HSA together. So we can pass that on so they don't die out. That would be amazing. As far as teacher retention and support goes, the dress code changes for staff has been very well received, is my understanding. And we talked about further initiatives in order for teacher retention, but we know due to contract negotiations that may be a little difficult at the moment, but still, they do like the jeans on Friday. I mentioned the potential PR collaboration with Rowan University, and even amongst ourselves with the CAC and operations, we do struggle with communication within our own organization. So we've discussed possibly utilizing text messages or Zoom, because we've kind of got the technology bucket that we set for ourselves kind of done. So we really want to focus on community engagement and teacher retention throughout this year. And of course, to help give the board members something to go into for your August retreat, in case we want to switch some of the district goals around. So that was that. We did have 3 recommendations come out of this meeting. Follow up on all outstanding CAC recommendations. Now, I won't hold your feet to the fire on the last ones that we just gave because it was only a couple weeks. But the one that I did see that was outstanding was in regards to the student misconduct and the use of their cell phones while filming fights, and whether there's going to be a change to that. If anybody wanted to speak to that one.
Yes. Ms. Nieves, the cell phone policy and taping, fighting or whatever extracurricular activities that take place during the school hours, that is being addressed by the administration, and we will be making recommendations for that change.
Thank you, Dr. Poteet. Our second recommendation was for the board to approve a CAC town hall for solution-based discussion for stakeholders regarding community engagement. And our third recommendation was a request for an update on the district's PR liaison and anything that may be coming from Ms. Furlow. And that was all I had. If anyone has any questions.
I would just like to say something in regards to the parent participation. I've been going to the different school events that's been happening at the school that's been on the calendar. And I've been completely in awe to see how packed those gyms are with parents and their children going out to those after school events. Parents are being engaged and involved in those events when it comes to directly dealing with their children. We may just have to work a little bit harder on how do we get them more involved. They may be coming out here to the board meetings or where they can have more dialogue with the board and with the community. But seeing the parents at these events, it just warms my heart to see that those gyms and the STEM programs that I visited at School 5, I've been to the middle schools parent community night. It was a great outcome there. And I went to School 3 for their ice cream social. These kids and these parents are participating and they are doing a great job. So we got to also give the applaud to those parents who are actively engaging in their children and the activities with their children, as well as trying to engage with the parents who have a little bit of issue with coming through to us.
No, absolutely, and I agree, Mrs. Lord. Monday night was schools 5 and 6 spring band and orchestra concert. It was a packed house. And last night was the middle school's band and orchestra performance as well. They sounded amazing, and again, parking was very, very hard to come by. So definitely doing amazing things. So appreciate that. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Martin, back to you again for the Education Committee.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. McManus, Marketing Committee.
Yes, sir. Marketing Committee minutes. Marketing Committee, we met on Saturday, September 10th, 2025, approximately 3 p.m. In attendance were Winslow, Joe Thomas, Wanda Lau, and myself. Items that we had discussed. Sorry.
The date of that meeting again, Mr. McMahon?
Saturday the 10th.
May.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Items discussed include, we had discussed prior a board presence over on the Juneteenth, but we expanded the scope of board presence with tents, the tent, over at not just the Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, June 21st, but also the fireworks on Friday, July 4th, Family Day, August 23rd, and the Fall Festival on October 4th. The committee recommends that the board's presence at those events. Purpose for this is to highlight student achievement as well as enhance the board's outreach within the community by availing themselves to the community. We are currently working on themes that could be used for each of these events. Mr. Thomas reminded the committee of the items that are needed that would be addressed ahead of time, including but not limited to the table, the chairs, tent, table, water, if that we choose to go in that direction. Mr. Thomas also suggested coordination with the township event coordinator. Also discussed in the assembling of a pamphlet that highlights student achievement, and as we know here at the board, there's almost too many to name, but we wanted to put something in the hands of the community, highlighting student achievement in the areas of academics, sports, performing arts, band and color guard, drama, and so on. A lot of good stories to be able to share with the community, and this is a really good opportunity to be able to reach out and remind the community of these achievements in the district. The committee will design and submit and get a quote given to the board to cover the costs of this pamphlet that could be used throughout the year at these different events. I ask that I might be able to meet with Dr. Poteet, supply a list of a student achievement list as has been done in the past, and maybe a template that we would be recommended that we would be able to assemble that. The meeting concluded approximately 4 p.m. Next meeting is scheduled for 3 p.m. on May 24th once again at the McManus House with refreshments served of the homemade variety.
Thank you, Mr. McManus.
Can I ask a question?
Ma'am,
Chislehurst Day is, June 14th. They're part of our district. Are we,
I love it. Great idea.
they have an application out.
They have an application.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Operations Committee.
Not at this time, Mr. President.
Does anybody have anything from the policy committee?
No report.
No, okay.
Didn't.
Mr. Thomas, the next two committees from the Economic Development Council and the Municipal Drug and Alcohol.
Not at this time, there, Mr. President.
Okay, so no problem. And there's nothing from the planning board at this time. So we'll move on to the superintendent's report. May I have a motion for approval of the superintendent's report as it's recommended for approval by the superintendent?
Peterson move for approval of the superintendent's report as approved by the superintendent. Item A and B found on page 4 and 8 through 8.
Ready, second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Can I have a motion to approve the business administrator's board secretary's report as it's written for approval by the, as it's recommended by the business administrator board secretary?
Peterson move for approval of the business administrative board secretary's report as she has recommended, found item A and B, page 9 through 15.
Any questions?
Ready, second.
Oops, sorry. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Moving on to the personnel report. Can I have a motion to approve the personnel report as it's recommended for approval by the superintendent?
Peterson move for approval of the superintendent's report as recommended by the superintendent. Item A, found 1 through 12, found on page 15 through 21.
Then second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Moving on to our addendum. If you haven't had a chance already, please take a couple minutes to look at our addendum. Can I have a motion to approve the superintendent's report on page 1 of our addendum as it's recommended for approval by our superintendent?
Peterson move for approval of the superintendent's report as he recommended. That on item A, 1 through 2, page 1.
Ready, second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Can I have a motion to approve the board secretary's report as it's recommended for approval by the Business Administrative Board Secretary.
Peterson move for approval of the Business Administrative Board Secretary's report as she approved it. Item A, 1 through 8, page 2 through 4.
Brennan second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes, but I need to abstain from letter A, number 5.
Yes. Oh, the motion has carried, I'm sorry.
Moving on to our personnel report on the addendum. Can I have a motion to approve the personnel report as is recommended for approval by our superintendent?
Peterson move for approval of the superintendent's approved recommendation under personnel. Item A, 1 through 4, found on page 5 through 6.
Brennan second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Moving on to open public records act requests. Ms. Boyle?
Yes, Mr. President, between the period of April 25th, 2025 and May 8th, 2025, we responded to one request from Frank Patterson from Academy Research Group. They requested an up-to-date list of our current employees, full names, hire date, phone numbers, email addresses, and salary if possible in a digital format. Those records were provided. Any phone numbers that would have been provided would have been district, not personal. So those records were supplied.
Thank you very much, Ms. Boyle. Moving on to informational items.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board and community, I have a few information items. First, I would like to inform the members of the board, if you don't already know, the Winslow Township governing body will be having their Memorial Day tribute on May 26th at 10 a.m. We received an invitation asking how many board members will be participating on that day. Mr. Shaw, we already submitted your name, but I wanted to make sure all the board members had an opportunity. That is something that is normally well attended by school board members in the past. So I'll pass that on to you, Mr. President. I would also like to inform the board and the community that there's a new TikTok trend out there among young people who are shoving instruments of any kind, paper clips and all those other things into the batteries of Chromebooks, which are starting fire throughout the country. We had a situation in one of our neighboring school districts last week. So we have submitted this information to all the principals to let them know that be on the watch, that this is a TikTok challenge among young people. And for whatever reason, I think they're taking pleasure out of destroying Chromebooks. So I just wanted to let you know that since we have been talking about Chromebooks these past few months, that there is a trend out there. So we're on top of it and want to make sure that you are aware. I do have a follow-up for the board on the potential food pantries at the building level. We have 4 schools who have stated they have space. Schools 4, 5, 6, and the middle school. However, the spaces in each of the school will vary in size depending on their availability. These individual principals are willing to, participate. However, they all have some concerns, and rightly so. But at this point, we have 4 schools that are willing to participate, or 4 schools that have space in order to participate. All right. Last but not least, very important night here at Winslow Township School District. Senior Awards Night is Tuesday, May 27th, at 6 p.m. in the Sarah Gordy Auditorium. That will give board members in the community an opportunity to see the number of young people, particularly our seniors, of course, who are receiving numerous scholarships and awards, as well as those individuals who will be awarded and going on to college to further their education. So all board members and community are welcome to attend Senior Awards Night at the high school Sarah Gordy Auditorium. Mr. President, that concludes my information items for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Poteet. Moving on to old business. Is there any old business?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir, Mr. Thomas.
I move to untable personnel appointment motion made on Wednesday, April 2026 for discussion in executive session. I move to have it on Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, that all applicants and employees are notified accordingly of this move.
Present second.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Need a roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yeah.
Mr. McManus.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Any other old business? All right, moving on to new business. Any new business?
Mr. President, I do have a topic on the new business I'd like to address or discuss. I know when we had our last budget meeting last week, and Mrs. Boyle gave a fabulous budget presentation, and she led us to understand that there may be a necessary need for a new building. And I'd just like to elaborate on that and also see if we can reach out to some other entities, including the township and the mayor, and maybe the head of the fire department, Mr. Sorelli, and other people that may be impacted by the continuous but great economic growth that's happening in our township, to make sure that we get in front of that and that we can accommodate such growth in our township.
Well, at this point, members of the board, if not an additional building, at least at a minimum, an extension at all of our lower elementary schools, because that's where our biggest growth at this point appears. It may be more cost efficient if we just extend. All of our buildings have significant land around them. Do something similar to what we did at School 4, but not a gymnasium, but classrooms. I think that will immediately address our needs as we continue to grow. And maybe somewhere in the near future or down the road, you can look at a new building of some sort. But I think our most efficient and our fastest growth is at the lower elementary schools. So I think at schools 1, 2, and 3, you have an excellent options to do some things in reference to additional classrooms.
How far into the future do you think that would be a necessity?
Well, I think the sooner the better. And the reason I say that is because you don't want to wait until it happens.
Right.
You want to prepare so as the community grows, we already have space to accommodate them as they come. I would say in meeting with the leadership team, it was only discussion, but if that's something you want to seriously entertain, I think now is the time for us to start the planning process and maybe select which school will have the greatest impact and where you want to build first. I don't think we'll be able to do all 3 at the same time. We may be at 1 and 2, same time, maybe 3, whatever it may be, but I'm not in a position to give you that timeline because we really haven't sat down and planned. but my initial response is low elementary schools, 1, 2, and 3.
I think if the board would concur, I think, well, Ms. Clark, go ahead.
Is there a way that we can get, it's been boggling my mind. I'd like to know if we can get the number of schools in each of the lower elementary schools, well, actually from 5 and 6, how many students are in each of those classes? I mean, in those schools, the school capacity for each student, for the students, and also the capacity of students allowable in each of the elementary schools, and how many children we have in each of the elementary schools right now. I'd like to get that number.
We can do that.
Thank you.
We have those numbers already. I'll have it available to you at the next board meeting. Off the top of my head, for example, school 5, they're always hovering around 500.
Right.
School 5 is 500 plus. School 6 is probably right around 500. So we're always around 500 at schools 5 and 6. But to get exact numbers per school, their capacity for growth. So that's schools 1 through 6, Mrs. Clark?
Yes, and then because we're speaking of expanding the elementary schools because they're a possibility of expanding the elementary schools, but you have 4 elementary schools to go to 2 upper elementary schools, and then those 2 upper elementary schools, they move on to 1 middle school. So I would like to find out what the capacity also for the middle school is and how many students are currently in there, and what's the projected growth for the middle school and next year.
We, just off the top of my head, Mrs. Clark, to respond, most of our growth is with 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds. We have to have room for them because that population is growing. And of course, each year we know how many are going into the middle school because we take the numbers of 6th graders from both of the schools 5 and 6. But in order to, as Ms. Glaude has requested, in order to address exact, accurate numbers, I will have to compile that information and provide it to you for the next meeting.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, and if I may add, once we get these numbers, could we make sure that we share it with the particular governing bodies and police and EMTs to let them know where we stand at that so they can have an update on how we're partnering with them to make sure we have the proper housing, the proper seats for the housing and all the construction that's going on. So just make sure that we do a 1 page to give them an update of where we stand on that topic.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I think, and I applaud my colleagues for thinking proactive. However, I think it's more impactful if you look at the group over the past 3 years to project what would happen in the next 3. So if you saw some great increases in particular schools or grades, you need to know that. So I'm looking at an assessment where it looks back 3 years and then you can project what will happen. I concur with Dr. Poteet that the growth is in the 3 and 4 year program because that's a full day program versus some of our counterparts that only have a part-time program.
Well, I'm gonna ask the board, Dr. Poteet, you, if you don't mind, I'm gonna ask the board that we ask Dr. Poteet to do an assessment with this and coincide with the township based on with Ms. Peterson's recommendation from the past 3 years, moving into the next 3 years with all the growth that we've had and the growth that we're looking into with all the housing that is coming to Winslow Township based on what we're currently ongoing and what we're getting with especially with the D.R. Horton development over off of Choose Landing and Sicklerville Roads, which is an additional 536 houses and residential units. So based upon all this information, we got to work with the township to figure out what the impact would be, what the importance would be for which school gets the priority of additions and where this would go. And it's not, Ms. Claude, those numbers that you want, we can have at the next meeting, but this is going to be something that Dr. Poteet and his administration team, it's going to take them some time to get to us. But this is something that you know.
Well, actually, the thing that I asked for, he said he can have for next meeting.
Yeah, that's what I said, he's gonna
The
have
thing
that for you
Ms.
next meeting.
Peterson just suggested is something I can see him having a little bit more time to
Right,
put
yeah,
together.
that's fine.
Yes.
But I'm asking the board to, you know, allow Dr. Poteet to be able to do that study and coincide with our township officials,
Yes.
if that's okay with the board.
It's a good idea because especially, I'm glad you touched on it, was the new construction that's going on. It's gonna, because depending upon the type of residential unit, it would affect the school district differently. The larger single-family homes might initially impact the school district in the middle and high schools more so than, say, a condo or a townhome.
So this is not something we need next week or the next board meeting. This is something that you can take your time to do.
Thank you, Mr. President, because it can't happen by
Yes.
the next board meeting.
No,
Just
and
tomorrow.
So if the board is okay with Dr. Poteet doing a long-term assessment impact study with the future construction of our school district,
Yes.
that would be something that I think would be beneficial to not only our community and the future residents of Winslow Township with our governing body and the school and the Board of Education working together.
Can I just make one assessment in reference to what has occurred in the past?
Yes, sir.
The part of the assessment that will always be very, very difficult to gauge, and that is when the development goes up, how can you determine how many children will come out of that development? And the reason I say that is the new development that was built across the street from School 4. And that was one of the reasons why we expanded School 4, because we saw the growth there. Do you know how many students we got out of that development?
I'm assuming not very many.
Probably about 4 or 5. So it depends. And I'm only saying that because you really don't know whether families are coming in with children. And you know, the new trend is people are getting married or not getting married. They're not having large families. They wait until later in life. So these are the things we have been able to follow.
Right.
However, it's not always the type of housing or whatever it may be, because, you know, we missed the mark on that one because we tried to anticipate. But again, we will do our very best in trying to do an assessment long-term. But you can never really pinpoint how many children will come out of the development. So we'll do our very best. And I'm quite sure with all the developments that's going on, let's say, for example, the one that's going on right across the street from the middle school.
Yes.
There's no way for us to know how many children are going to come from that development. And always keep in mind that they're not always coming from one grade. You know, you build development, you get some that's kindergartners, you get some first grade, third grade, and they spread out throughout the district. So it's not like one school is going to be impacted as opposed to another. So what we'll do, put our numbers together for next board meeting, and then I'll have a conversation with Mr. Gallagher to talk about what's going on as far as we look at the growth and development, and probably give you some good estimates or guesstimates in terms of student growth. But we'll do our very best.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Poteet.
And Mr. President, I have one more item I want to ask
Yes, sir.
information on. I know when we first started in January, it was an urban boards committee where I got some great information, but was giving me some foresight on, you know, how the, you know, Washington DC was doing anything. I was wondering, can we get an update on that, or what's going on from, you know, up top and coming, that's trickling down to us from that urban boards committee?
Ms. Martin.
I haven't received anything from them.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from the
Recently.
Jersey School Boards about an updated date on an urban boards committee meeting since that last urban boards meeting.
Correct. And there has been no information passed on from the workshops that they had, the presentations. We have not received anything from them since then.
Right. So, if you want, you can pass that along to me and I'll do whatever I can to see if I can get some information from Ray Penny.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other new business? Mr. Long, your favorite part of the meeting? And
Yes, sir.
moving on to public comments.
The Winslow Township Board of Education highly values the input of citizens in making important decisions that affect the children of our community. We believe in the rights of citizens to observe board meetings, to ensure that all of our citizens have the opportunity to attend board meetings and offer comment, and to ensure that the board can conduct the important business of the district. We ask that speakers follow the guidelines for making public comment. The board secretary will recognize those individuals in the audience who wish to make comment. We'd ask that you kindly respect the following procedures. One, all members of the public attending school board meetings must treat each other and the board with respect. Please state your full name and town of residence. Your address is not needed. Please limit your comments to 4 minutes. In the event you have a question, please submit it to the board along with your name, address, telephone number, and email address where you can be contacted. Your questions will be answered if they can't be tonight within a reasonable time frame. Finally, individuals offering citizen comment are not permitted to make any personal attacks on any district employee, board member, other testifier, or member of the public. Thank you, sir.
May I have a motion to move into public comments?
Peterson move for approval to enter into open comment.
Redding second.
All in favor? Ms. Boyle?
Debbie Murphy.
Good evening.
Good
evening.
I'm Debbie Murphy. I live in Sickerville. As touched on by Mr. Thomas and Mr. Shaw, the drama club went to the Cappy's Gala, and for those who don't know, the Cappy's is basically the Tony Awards for high schoolers. The cast and crew of Mamma Mia won 3 Cappies, a Spirit Award, and 2 cast members got scholarships. We got Best Musical, which shows the determination and continued support and commitment that the school administration and board puts into the club. It also shows how great and successful our theater program at Winslow Township truly is. They also, our stage crew won Best Set, and Shiloh Garnett, who played Donna, won Best Female Vocalist. Michaela Villanueva won the Spirit Award, and I'm gonna butcher this name. Daniel Asa and Anthony Bambino won the New York Film Academy Scholarship. And then I do have 2 questions. With the impact that might come from the new housing, have we thought about the impact that the transportation department is going to face with the increase of students?
Yes, we are dealing with the growth in transportation as we speak. Transportation grows whether you have additional students or not. So we deal with transportation all the time. When you get more little people, 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, that is transportation. When you have students who are going out of district, that requires transportation. Students who are going to choice schools. As those numbers increase, we continue to purchase more buses. We do have a rotation of buses on a regular basis so we can keep our fleet upgraded. I think we're up to about 105 buses now, somewhere like that.
I don't know what one faced me off yesterday.
Right. But I know we have probably about 105 buses now at a minimum. And that number continues to grow. Our fleet continues to grow every year. So yes, we are dealing with it. And as we continue to plan, Ms. Murphy, for the growth, we also have to plan to increase our fleet of buses.
Okay, and then as we're looking at expanding our lower elementary schools,
Right.
is that going to become a problem to having to expand the upper elementary schools when like the population moves up?
No, because as I stated, all of our schools have areas for growth. We have a lot of land and property around all of our schools. So the potential for growth is still there for all of our schools. So I would say as part of our long-range planning, an extension on each of those schools would probably be in our best interest to consider.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Murphy.
Have, Jay Pohill, I'm assuming it's Ms. Pohill.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
evening.
Thank you for allowing me the space to speak. I want to take a moment to address not just a recent incident involving my son and an aide in this building, but the larger concern of how actions within School 6 often contradict the very mission they stand behind. Winslow School 6 mission is to provide a safe, nurturing, and challenging environment where all students are inspired, supported, and empowered. However, I have witnessed and continue to address instances where that mission is not being upheld for my child. When an aide assigned to support students with IEPs speaks to a child in a belittling tone, asking, "Are you a fourth grader or a baby?" for untied shoes and threatens them with detention over perceived speech patterns, that is not nurturing, that is not empowering, that is not safe. My child accurately recounted this incident, and it was confirmed in a meeting attended by the building principal, the aide, and the assistant principal. At the start of that meeting that I did eventually have, the aide was cracking their knuckles and asked what I needed clarification on. Yet when I asked if there was a mutual understanding at the end of the meeting, the aide responded by laughing. That reaction alone shows a lack of professionalism and a lack of emotional intelligence, both of which are required to create a supportive and challenging learning environment. Your mission calls for students to thrive with high expectations and demonstrate courage, strength, and confidence. But how can a child demonstrate courage when adults assigned to support them use their power to intimidate or shame them? How can a child be expected to apply critical thinking when their emotional well-being is constantly unsettled by those who should be protecting it? This is not just about my child. It is about accountability and whether the values of this school district are consistently practiced or only posted. Excellence is the only standard, and I agree. But excellence must include how students are spoken to, how conflicts are addressed, and how families are respected when they raise concerns. I will continue to hold every adult accountable who disrupts my child's educational space, and I ask you to reflect deeply on whether your staff's actions align with the mission you proudly represent. Thank you.
That concludes those that have signed up to speak. I don't know if there is anybody on
Not at this time.
at this time.
Thank you. I do have some.
And sir, when you're done, if you could come just sign so I have your name.
As my 6-year-old says, no way. Good evening, good day. So I have a quick question. So with the growth of the school, my son currently goes to school number 4, and I believe that's under your purview. The traffic, because we drop them off every day, and it's a nightmare. You have to be in the middle of the street, and then the buses come by. Sometimes they go a little fast. And my wife recently was in an auto accident because I forgot the name of the street when somebody rushing to get in sideswiped her. But yeah, so
Crazy over
she, damaged her car, but it wasn't too much of a damage. But still an accident. She was a little shaken, trying to pick up her son. So my question is, and that during the summer, I think he went to school too. It's a little different situation with resources, but there's a different way that they do parking, and it worked out pretty fine. But in school 4, where my son currently attends, it's the middle of the street, and then it's the parking, and it's just with the. Is there a plan to expand that, or a better way to, that's my question. Because it's a crapshoot every day. Yeah.
Yes, and it has been an ongoing problem for us for a number of years. The school district does not have the authority, and I'm not blame shifting, but in order for us to modify, a street and moving curbage and things like that, so you can have more room, that is something we would have to work out with the township, if it is a township street, because a lot of streets in Winslow, you have to find out whether it's a township street, whether it's a state venue, all those kinds of things. So you understand what I'm saying? But as a school district, no, we have not. But I think it is something that needs to eventually be addressed, because that has been an existing problem. We don't have a solution because of size of school, parking for the entire staff, buses to come in, and right now the only place we have for cars to wait getting in and out is the street. So we would have to collaborate with the township and or the state in order for anything to happen. We don't have that authority to make those kind of adjustments.
I would hope that you guys would do that, because it's really tough every day dropping my son off to school, knowing that somebody may hit me, someone may zoom past it, and I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. But thank you,
Right.
Appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I should probably signed in the wrong book. Is it all right to speak from here, or?
If that's more
Yeah,
comfortable for you,
I
sir.
mean, I'm pretty loud and transparent.
Okay.
So, my name is George Bethel. I'm from Sicklerville, the Primrose Gate section. I just want to make a few statements, no questions. Our Veterans of Foreign War District 7 commander for the whole district, which is all of Camden County. Our local VFW, and from the national level down to the local, we do what is called a Patriots Pin and a Voice of Democracy. And that's for school kids, middle school, up until the senior high school. And it's an essay writing contest. For the past 2 years, I'm giving some accolades here to our district. This year alone, we had 39 participants for the Patriots Pin, which are middle school kids. Out of all the national, we had one student that was ranked number 3. And what we do is we pick a topic, some sort of national defense military topic on what this year it was their view on democracy. So I just want to give accolades to that student, which we did a presentation. We went around to the whole school, all the school districts, and we gave out, on a local level, we gave out gift certificates and letters of appreciation for all of them that participated. And it was well received. And I just want to give the district, an attaboy. And also, we have a program, national program for school teachers. We give like a school teacher. We didn't do it this year, but I'm going to personally make sure I implement it next year. To give accolades to, we're going to go around and find a school to the districts and find what school teachers can have stepped up and in your view is worthy of an award. So that's just something that's going to be coming up, and I'm going to implement this year.
Thank you.
Or next year.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bethel.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for allowing me to speak. And I'll sign yours.
I
I usually end up signing the wrong stuff.
The paper you signed, Mr. Festival, you signed your house over to.
Okay, yeah, that's why I put the wrong.
You said you put the wrong address down too, right?
Can I have a motion to adjourn public comments?
Peterson move for approval to adjourn public comment.
Run second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to executive session.
Mr. Thomas would like to make a comment.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. Ms. Pohl, I just want to say, nobody commented, but I just want to say we hear you. Well, I appreciate you coming up here, voicing your concerns. Applaud you on that. And also, I keep hearing that, the collaboration, but it's so important that we reach out to the township. I know they have an educational committee or something. Are we meeting with them? Can we give an extra effort to make sure that we can have a meeting with them that start talking about what the future is going to look like and how we can work together, because that's the only way we'll succeed with our concerns of our stakeholders. So I'm just asking for something to come back. If it's next week or two, we just say we tried and they didn't want to do it, or we're still going to try so we can get a collaboration with the township to work on some of these stakeholders' concerns.
May I respond? I need to say something. Mrs. Bohill comes to the board meetings and she has the right to speak on her behalf as well as her child. Coincidentally, I had a conversation with Ms. Bohill today. I've tried to work with Mrs. Bohill. I think maybe in the past week or two, we've had at least 2 conversations. I've been trying to coordinate with Mrs. Bohill and the building principal at School 6. So I don't want my silence to be conceived as not addressing needs. We are still going to continue to work with Ms. Bohill, as I stated to her today. I understand her concern. I spoke with the building principal on 2 occasions, once before I spoke with Ms. Bohill and after I spoke with Mrs. Bohill. And there is a difference in interpretation as to what took place in that meeting. But since we don't go into detail in public meetings, then I just want you to know that I have communicated with Ms. Bohill and I will continue to communicate with Ms. Bohill on addressing her concerns. So I just wanted to make sure you know that it's not something that's not being addressed or being ignored.
Well, it's very important, Dr. Poteet, because I know, and this is always very frustrating for the board, that we want to engage and understand and get some details of what's happening, but that's not something that we're permitted to do in a public meeting when it comes to students and their privacy rights or personnel of the district and their privacy rights. So the reason we don't typically respond on those questions is because we are not permitted to by law. But I would again say what I've echoed on many occasions, and we should simply, anybody who has those concerns, work through the building principal and the chain of command up to through and including the superintendent to get their matters heard in a fair manner. Perhaps not everyone it results in the outcome that's expected, but that's the process that's in place. And this board as a group is unable to have a dialogue on these types of issues because the law does not permit it.
I just wanted to say that, yes, we did have conversation.
Sorry,
And
did she get called up again?
no, I walked back up because you were speaking about me.
Amanda, public portion has closed. If we want to open it up again, we can. Have we?
No, it's closed.
It's closed, right?
Yes.
So if you want to open it up again, you can open it up. We have to follow the procedure.
Right.
If you want to open it up again, you can open it up again.
I don't think we need to open it up again because otherwise we take the risk of starting a back and forth. And I don't want to do that because we take the chance of violating your child's rights. And that's something we don't need to do here in public.
Okay, I understand.
And that's my main concern is your child's rights. Any other comments from the board before we move on to executive session? Moving on to executive session.
Thank you, Mr. President. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, we'll be adjourning into executive session on May 14th, 2025 at 9 p.m. Of the 9 exceptions under the law that permit us to adjourn into executive session, we would be utilizing number 8, matters involving employment and appointment, terms and conditions of employment, with regard to supervisory personnel. All appropriate individuals have been riced, and I would estimate that we would be in executive session somewhere between 45 minutes to 1 hour.
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www.
Can I have a motion to move into executive session?
Peterson move for approval to go into executive session.
Ready, second.
Roll call, please.
Explain that.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Claude,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Gonna pick the gavel?